It's often joked that the hardest part of the creative process is naming, whether that be for a character or the work as a whole. Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of the Super Smash Bros. Series, has always had a straightforward approach to naming when it came to his games. Aside from the original Smash, the next two entries had synonyms for fight as their subtitles, Melee and Brawl. The next entry used its name to indicate the system it was on, something that was probably necessary for clarity. But after that, Sakurai got a little ambitious. What would he name his next Smash game? It had the most fighters, the most stages, the most content of any entry in the series. It was the most Smash that Smash had ever been. And so, he chose a name befitting of that status. Special, or over here in NA, Ultimate. Ultimate, a word associated with the apex, the end-all, be-all, the alpha and the omega. A word that suggests that nothing before and nothing after will ever live up to the sheer insanity of this one event. Kagaribi 13 is the Ultimate Smash Tournament. But why do I say that? Previously, the biggest Smash Ultimate tournament in the world was EVO 2019, both in terms of size and of stacked competition, though most people tend to just remember this tournament for its grand finals. It's important to remember that this tournament was a big deal for pre-quarantine Smash. Over the years though, the epicenter for Smash Bros has shifted from North America over to Japan, and their largest tournament has become the largest tournament for all of Smash Ultimate. It didn't necessarily start out that way though. Kagaribi's story of being a new Japanese tournament, then becoming the penultimate Japanese tournament, to becoming the penultimate Smash tournament is as long as it is fascinating. And if you're interested, Self-Destruct Gambit has recently released a new video going over the entire history of the Kagaribi series. It's just about an hour long, and no matter how deep you are in the Smash iceberg, it's a valuable watch. Also, I happen to make an appearance in that video talking about 3 of my favorite things in Smash Ultimate: Proto Banham, Japanese Smash, and Min Min. So go give that video a watch if you're interested in the history of Kagaribi. It'll be linked at the top of the description of this video. But for most of the people here today, I'm willing to bet that you're certainly more interested in Kagaribi 13, which went down this past weekend and broke the record as the largest Smash tournament in the history of Ultimate. The entrants numbered in the thousands, and nearly 40 of the top 50 in the world were attending, plus thousands of killers who were ready to make the runs of a lifetime at a once-in-a-decade event. My name's Ristermice, and today we'll be going over the story of Kagaribi 13, going over the storylines and seeding before the event, moving into solitary upsets that rocked the brackets, then we'll whittle down until we've reached our top 8, at which point we'll go step by step until we've got the winner of Kagaribi 13. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Self-Destruct Gambit posted the top 256 seeds of Kagaribi 13 on Twitter, and here's the first image of just the top 64. As you can see, it's stacked beyond belief. Some of you have likely watched videos or streams of people trying to predict how this bracket would go, but honestly, I didn't even bother because I don't think there was much of a point. This is Japan. The depth talent is going to go hard, and upsets are as natural as breathing in Japanese Smash, as I'm sure my viewers are well aware of. In terms of storylines, where do I even begin? The race for number 1 was fierce, but in a weird spot. The frontrunner for 2025 so far, Hurt, dropped out of Kagaribi as a part of his ban. This left a power vacuum in the number 1 spot that Doramiki has been making a strong case for filling, since he won Level Up Expo 2025 just the weekend prior. It's also worth noting that any player who has top 8'd the last 3 majors in preparation for this tournament, Level Up Expo, Sumobato SP57, and Obaitori 2, is on a hot streak coming coming into Kagaribi 13. Naturally, the top contenders of the event consist of the Kagaribi mainstays like Spargo, Akola, and Mia. Sonics is up there too, trying to prove that he's still on the same level as the rest of the 3 previous horsemen. And like SDG mentioned at the end of his video, Zachary was also somebody people were keeping an eye on since he's never missed top 8 before at a Kagaribi. And this series is considered to be his home turf. And how can I bring up Kagaribi storylines without bringing up Frontier? Frontier is a Kazuya main who's ranked #1 on Smashmate, Japan's online ladder system, over the likes of Doramigi and Maldna HO. He has never attended an offline event until the Kagaribi pre-local and is unseeded going into Kagaribi. For reference, you want to know what happened the last time a practically unseeded #1 on Smashmate young prodigy entered a Kagaribi? Akola won Kagaribi 7, and after that, Mia won Kagaribi 8. So yeah, needless to say, people have their eyes on Frontier, even as the 2046th seed. Other than that, competitors from all across the world were coming out to Kagaribi 13. We're talking NA, EU, and even lesser known regions like South America, because people know that an opportunity like this may never come again. There's not a whole lot more I can really say about it other than that this tournament was viewed as Smash Ultimate's last hurrah. While that may not be fully accurate, since we're gonna get at least 2 more years of this game, I think it is accurate to say that most people believe Ultimate will never have another tournament like this again. You could say that Kagaribi 13 was the apex, the end-all be-all, the alpha and the omega, the ultimate Smash tournament. So without any further ado, let's begin covering Kagaribi 13 Day 1. By the way, once again, if you don't know what upset factor is, it's just a measurement used to quantify the craziness of an upset. Use this chart for a good measure of how important the numbers are. Okay? Let's begin. Now, as expected for Kagaribi, it didn't even take half an hour for our first major upset to take place. Usually, you'd be expecting upset factors of 5 or maybe 6, right? It was upset factor 10. 10! In half an hour! Japan's best Diddy Kong player and 53rd seed Ryuo got upset in his first set of the tournament, losing to the 1996th seed Nyan-chan. Who is this mystery player? He's a Smashmate Link main who was attending one of their first ever offline tournaments, much like Frontier. Now is probably a good time to mention that for time's sake, I'm mostly going to be covering upsets of players who are notable or upsets that are ridiculously big. I will be covering upset runs of lesser known players later on, but I don't want this video to be 2 hours long, so I am going to have to trim the fat a little bit. Even so, it begins. Our first major upset of the bracket, Nyan-chan over Ryuo. Hold on to your hats, dear viewers, because we've quite literally just started. Upsets at Kagaribi 13 generally fell into 2 categories: international competitors getting upset and Japanese competitors getting upset. Let's go over each chronologically for day 1 of Kagaribi 13. For international competitors, Lucky, the best plant main in NA and the 164th seed, got upset in pools by Pokemon trainer main Rana, who was the 676th seed, for an upset factor 4. Lucky then dropped into losers and lost to Rob main Isao 2-1, an upset factor 3, which eliminated Lucky at 513th place as the 164th seed. Notably, the first well-known international player to be eliminated from the tournament. French Wolf main and 100 seed Orion would lose 2-1 to an Aegis main named Iruna for an upset factor 4 victory, and Orion would eventually go on to place 257th. And Mexico Luigi main and 61st seed Waka would lose to Icy's main and 452nd seed Saya for an upset factor 6 victory. As far as Japan goes, 44th seed Goryoka lost to Sheik main and 213th seed Mion 2-1 for an upset factor 5. Teishi's Samus as the 144th seed got upset 2-1 by 656th seed Harun, notable for the character they were playing, Mii Sword Fighter. Is this perhaps the start of an offline Mii Swordy main to be using the new Zero to Deaths? Maybe, but this set was off stream, so who knows. Nyanchan's back again with another upset, this time clocking in at upset factor 6 from getting a 2-1 win over number 8, a talented Luigi main who was the 204th seed, with Nyanchan guaranteed to make it to day 2. Lunamato, who we just covered in our Obaitori 2 video, upset Anarchy in a 2-1 win for an upset factor 2, and would also defeat Masa for an upset factor 3 on a very strong run, coming off of his first major top 8 finish just a few days ago. And now we've got our next massive upset. You may remember Ball, the King K. Rool main, who top 8'd the French major GSM. He was coming into Kagaribi 13 as the 240th seed and went up against Cola, the 17th seed, in pools. Ball would end up defeating Cola 2-1, an upset factor 7 win that put Cola down into losers early. But guess what, dear viewers? I'm not done, because Cola would drop into losers and immediately lose his next set to main, a Bowser Jr. player seeded 1,361st. This was an upset factor 12 victory that eliminated Cola at 257th place as the 17th seed. And thus, the first top seed of Kagaribi 13 was eliminated early.
あるぞ、引っ掛けた。
グーの一発から
高い。
57。
うわ
We've got dual upset factor 7s coming up here, with Smashmate Kazuya Niyushi winning over Higachan's Ganon in a Game 5, which was upset factor 7 because Niyushi was the 2,511th seed. The other upset to reach upset factor 7 also involved Kazuya, but on the bad side of the upset this time, with USA Kazuya Skeleton losing 2-1 to Nyan, who I believe plays Ice Climbers. Skeleton would drop into losers and immediately lose to Soyu the Hero main to place 769th as the 79th seed, a set that clocked in at upset factor 8. Hope you guys like Kazuya because we've got even more for you. The Japanese Kazuya Miru getting a Game 5 upset win over Lima for an upset factor 6 win. Siski, as the 39th seed, lost to Malk's Minmin, who was the 218th seed, 2-0 for an upset factor 5. Our next upset is another massive one, with 26th seed Ken losing 2-0 to a Smashmate Game & Watch main named Saozando, the 794th seed, for an upset factor 10. An insane loss for a normally consistent player. Susu, the French Steve main, got upset by Kuropanzu for upset factor 5, then dropped into losers and lost to Game 5 to America's Loaf, upset factor 4, to place 193rd as the 47th seed. Let's get a few more rapid fire upsets before we move on to our next big storyline. Takara, the Japanese Ken, lost to Hashitora, the 2,186th seed, for an upset factor 8. And in a sick twist of fate, the two of them would actually meet again in losers bracket, where Hashitora would win again another upset factor 8 that eliminated Takara at 513th place. American Joker Omega got eliminated at 257th as the 62nd seed by Japanese Smash legend Raito, upset factor 5. American hero main Sparkle got double upset in pools to place 513th as the 127th seed, and American Diddy Kong main Beastly placed 385th as the 74th seed after being upset in Phase 2 pools. American legend DaBuzz would lose to Yoshi main Moku Moku in an upset factor 6, but make it to day 2 through losers. And while he's not technically American, America-based Mii Brawler main Yeast would get upset by a Little Mac main for an upset factor 6 loss that eliminated Yeast at 193rd. That same Little Mac main who upset Yeast also got another big win the round before, this time defeating the French Pac-Man main Madzai, which got him eliminated at 513th as the 120th seed. Speaking of France, French Pichu main Netoru got double upset in pools to place 257th as the 119th seed, and unfortunately the Dutch Young Link main Supasemi would also fall victim to a double Phase 2 pools upset to place 257th as the 45th seed. Lest you think that only international competitors were falling victim to this, Roy main Alice and Crom main Lax would both fall victim to upsets and bow out of the tournament extremely early, losing in upset factors 8 and 9. Japanese legend Abadango would get double upset to 1,025th place as the 179th seed, and Yonepi's Pichu would lose to a Bayonetta main named Oni-chan for an upset factor 9. Fun fact, Oni-san had just come from pools where he defeated level 1 in an upset factor 10 win. So yeah, a bit of a run from this Bayonetta main. And now we've got our next massive story. Because after I mentioned him up top, I'm sure you are all wondering, how did Frontier do? Well, Frontier would make an impression at his first big offline event, defeating top Japanese Palu main Jagaimo for a big upset factor 8 win. After this though, Frontier would go up against Hero's Bowser, which he defeated in game 1, but Hero then swapped to a counterpick Donkey Kong, which I don't think we've ever seen from him, which proceeded to win the next 2 games, defeating the Kazuya Prodigy and casting Frontier down into loser's bracket. But it was here that he'd actually get his best win. You see, Frontier had been predicted to fight Shattuck's Corrin, but Shattuck had actually gotten upset earlier on in bracket, losing to the best Mii Gunner main in Japan, Claw, who was using Mii Brawler, for an upset factor 6. This meant that Shattuck was in Frontier's path yet again, and after 5 close games, Frontier would defeat Shattuck 3-2, eliminating the 27th seed at 193rd for a win that clocked in at upset factor 12, tying with main Cola for the largest of the entire tournament so far, with Frontier punching his ticket to day 2. And that's it for day 1 of Kagaribi 13. Now, I didn't cover absolutely everything. Like I said, I didn't want to make this video 2 hours long. I mostly chose to go over upsets that either featured recognized players or were important towards a larger narrative. While there are still a little too many players for me to recount everyone in top 192, most of the top seeds are still in at this point. The most notable international eliminations on day 1 are, of course, Cola and Shattuck, as well as Supasemi, Beastly, Natoru, Mpopo, Madzai, Apollo Kage, who lost to Buzz in losers, Omega, Lucky, Skeleton, Orion, and Susu. In terms of Japanese competitors, the most notable early outings include Kion, Tass, Abadango, Matara, Lax, Takara, and most notably Alice. On another positive note, the rising stars of day 1 of Kagaribi include, of course, Frontier the Smashmate Kazuya, Nyanchan the Smashmate Link, Saozando the Smashmate Game & Watch, and the winner of my pick for the best set of day 1, Ball the K-Rool, who, you know, used to be known as a Smashmate grinder, but he's more known nowadays for offline. If there's anything I bet most of you are taking from this video so far, it's that the choice to not seed some of the top players on Smashmate for their first ever offline events has been interesting to say the least. Though I will say it's not an enviable position the Kagaribi TOs were put in. How do you seed players like that? Frontier, the #1 on Smashmate aside, how do you seed Nyanchan? Saozando? Do you prioritize the results of a grind website more than prior major top 8s? All I know is that I wouldn't want to be the one making that call. Smash Twitter hates me enough already. But with all that said and done, we now moved into day 2 of Kagaribi 13, top 192, which we'll proceed to whittle down by upsets until we reach top 64. Without further ado, let's begin. If you thought day 1 was a bloodbath, you genuinely have not seen anything yet. In our path from top 192 to top 8, we're going to see almost every single top seed drop into losers. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because we're going to be covering these somewhat chronologically. Let's go ahead and begin. The first major upset of top 192 befell Smash Ultimate's GOAT, MK Leo, who lost 3-1 to Neo's Corrin on the big stage for an upset factor of 5, dropping down into losers extremely early in a set that will be just a hint of things to come. Nyanchan would win another set over Toonlink main Krosk in a game 5 for upset factor 5. Though his run would be ended by a Kazuya main named Kabanga, who would actually go on to eliminate Rawflow later in the tournament. This would end the Smashmate Link's run at 97th place as the 1996th seed. Ryuo, who opened up our video with losing his round 1, has been on a massive losers run, but it would be ended by a loss to Ayalin in a 3-2 upset factor 3 that eliminated Ryuo at 129th place as the 53rd seed after a 7-set losers run. Moving back up to winner's bracket, we had an upset befall the 8th seed Light, who lost to the rising star Lunamato, who we just covered a few days ago in our Obaitori 2 video. For this set, Lunamato used a game of Luigi, but mostly used Buzz Lightyear? Sure, I guess, whatever. Light lost to Buzz Lightyear. Japan, am I right? Notably, this set would clock in at upset factor 9, one of the largest of the tournament.
心臓ボサボサ気早すぎですお肉これは耳のだけ
And after this, Light would drop down into losers and lose to Snow's Mario to place 33rd as the 8th seed, an upset factor 3 win that eliminated Light extremely early. Anin, the 15th seed and recent runner-up of Level Up Expo 2025, would get reverse 3-0'd by Reno's Byleth in an upset factor 4 victory. Ken, who lost to the Smashmate Game & Watch earlier, would have his run ended by Siski in a 3-1 minor upset to place 97th as the 26th seed. Meister, who just won his first major tournament at Obaitori 2, would lose to Taikei's Sonic 3-0 in a minor upset, dropping into losers to eventually place 49th as the 25th seed. Let's go back up to winners, where another top seed of the tournament was losing Heartbreakers. This time, it was the first seed of the entire tournament, Spargo, who lost a close Game 5 set to Riddles' Kazuya in his last ever Smash Ultimate tournament. This set clocked in at upset factor 9, the same as Light Lunamato, and cast Spargo down into losers bracket early, where he was seeded to fight MK Leo for 33rd place. And that set would end up happening.
Leo recovering really well too. Actually does not like to switch more there.
Oh my
dash attack
call out!
In a shockingly quick 3-0 sweep, MK Leo defeated Spargo using his Aegis, an upset factor 6 win which eliminated Spargo at 33rd place as the first seed. His claim for #1 in the world this season effectively dead in the water. A sad end for Spargo at the largest Smash tournament of all time, but who else to lose to, right? Suna, who defeated Mudace in day 1, would make waves in day 2 as well, defeating Rocky in an upset factor 3-3-1 victory. Rocky would later lose in a game 5 to Young Link main Lemon-Zona in an upset factor 5 to place 65th as the 29th seed. Our next massive upset would befall Syrup, who's been on a massive level up lately, but would lose in a 3-0 sweep to Rimu's Min Min. A win-win that clocked in at upset factor 7, one of the quieter massive upsets of the bracket. With one Min Min succeeding though, another one falls, with winner of Level Up Expo 2025, Doramigi, losing 3-0 to Tweak. An upset factor 5 loss that sent Doramigi into losers early on. Our next two upsets would both befall top 10 seeds of the tournament right in the rounds before top 8, with 4th seed Mia losing to his bracket demon Gluttony in a 3-0 sweep for an upset factor 4 win, and with 10th seed Sonics losing to a struggle matchup in T's Pac-Man 3-1 for an upset factor 2. Speaking of T's Pac-Man though, he'd go on to lose to Rimu's Min Min for an upset factor 4 loss that allowed Rimu to move into winners quarterfinals. MK Big Boss would get a big win over Zachary in 3-1 fashion, good for upset factor 3. Notable because this means that this is the first Kagaribi Zachary has attended where he didn't make top 8, being eliminated at 33rd place. MK Leo, after having eliminated Spargo, would move on in his next set and immediately lose in a 3-0 sweep to level 1's Toon Link, an upset factor 5 win. And in case you thought that was ridiculous, level 1 would move on and immediately lose to Tamapi Daifuku in a game 5 set. Makes you wonder about the point of any of this. Next up is Mudace, coming off of a long losers run, who defeated Zamba in a 3-1 victory that clocked in at upset factor 6, and eliminated the 5th seed at 17th place. And believe it or not, that's actually it for upsets on day 2 that aren't linked to a top 8 run. Before we go over which competitors made top 8 and how, I want to give a shout out to a few runs that I believe are very noteworthy. First of all, the massive losers runs at Kagaribi 13 that more people need to talk about belong to Mudace and Level 1, both of whom lost early on in Phase 2 and Phase 1 pools respectively. Mudace had lost to Suna's Greninja early on, but then went on to defeat the Mac player who beat Yeast and Madzai, as well as Rarikusu, Ake, Neo, Motsunabe, and Zamba, before eventually losing to Mia to place 13th as the 36th seed, outperforming projections mostly through losers. Level 1 lost even earlier than Mute in one of his first sets of the tournament, before then going on a 10-set losers run, getting wins over the likes of Zurzel, Harasen, Malk, Ryuk, Hero, Shadow, Nyonyo KNB, and lastly MK Leo, before losing a Game 5 to Temapi Daifuku to place 17th as the 51st seed. Rimu went on a winner's bracket tear with wins over Peanut, Malk, Philippine Aegis main Yu, as well as both Syrup and T, which we covered as big upsets earlier. Rimu would lose to Akola and Mia to place 9th as the 90th seed, a rough pull for a player that could have otherwise made top 8. And Suna would also have an impressive run, with good upset wins over Mutes, Raki, and Jazo, placing 25th as the 93rd seed as the highest placing Greninja main after losing to MK Big Boss and losers. Riddles had a phenomenal placing at 9th place as the 32nd seed after going through the Game 5 gauntlet, with wins over the likes of Lemonzona, Rarikusu, Spargo, and Carmelo. And lastly, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering how Frontier ended up placing. The answer? 97th as the 2,404th seed, with wins over Jagaimo and Shattuck and losing to Hero and Fire's Aegis. And that brings us to our top 8 finishers, who went on massive runs to reach the final stage of the most stacked Smash tournament of all time. Let's go ahead and start with winners, since we've actually gone over most of that already. Near the top of the bracket, it would be Wrath, who benefited from Riddles upsetting Spargo, with wins over Ashimo, Taikei, and Riddles himself to make winner's side top 8. And facing Wrath would be Rauru, who defeated Andres FN 3-1, as well as Zamba in a good win, before benefiting from Gluttony upsetting Mia, proceeding to defeat Gluto's Link in a close Game 5 set with a not very close decisive Game 5, in order to make it into winner's side top 8. Akola would massively benefit from Sonics getting upset by T, and also by Rimu upsetting both T and Syrup, allowing Akola to 3-0 Rimu to make top 8 winners, with wins over Rimu, Temapi Daifuku, and a close Game 5 against Crepe Soleil's Wario. And meeting Akola here would be Tweak, who clutched out a Game 5 versus Snow and then defeated both Doramigi like we covered earlier, and Shuton in a 3-1 win to make winner's side top 8. In loser's side, Mia, after having lost to Gluttony, would get wins over Yoshidora, Mutes, and Rimu to make loser's side top 8 relatively easily, not dropping a game after falling into losers. Meeting Mia here would actually be Carmelo, who went on an insane run, defeating Reno, who had beaten Anan and Crepe Soleil earlier on in brackets, in a Game 5 before next beating Sonics in a 3-1 victory, and Shuton in a close Game 5. This means that Carmelo's streak of never missing a major top 8 in 2025 continues, despite the massive odds he had to overcome. The other side of losers top 8 would be filled partly by Doramigi, who, after losing to Tweak earlier, would defeat MK Big Boss 3-1, Anan 3-1, and Riddles in a close Game 5 set to make losers side top 8 after defeating the North American stragglers. And lastly, we've got Gluttony, who was the only one who lost in winners quarters to win the losers side top 8 qualifier, 3-0ing Temapi Daifuku, who had just defeated level 1 and Ashimo. And so we've got our top 8. Wrath versus Rauru and Akola versus Tweak on winner's side, and with Doramigi versus Gluttony and Carmelo versus Mia on loser's side. We'll now be going step by step in the order top 8 was streamed to see how it plays out. This was it. These competitors had done the impossible to top 8 the largest Smash tournament of all time. There was no slowing down. There was only forward. To win big or to go home. Our first set of top 8 was losers 8's Doramigi versus Gluttony, a match that has happened a few times before and a volatile one at that. But this time around, Doramigi would 3-0 the last remaining European, eliminating Gluttony at 7th place as the 13th seed, and allowing Doramigi to move on in brackets.
A grab, command grab rather, with the neutral B.
Yeah, definitely a nice grab coming in from Gluttony, but now it's his left jab snail. Let's see if he can try and get a stock out of the way at least, but never mind.
Jeez.
The other side of losers 8's wasn't actually much closer, because even though Carmelo had slogged through to make top 8, it looked as if the steam had run out, with Mia quickly 3-0ing the breakout Steve for Carmelo to place 7th as the 16th seed. The major top 8ing streak still intact, and with Mia moving on in brackets.
The side of the stage very efficiently.
And yeah, especially considering that Mia is giving him all the rage in the world. Already at
The total finish it off.
The first set of winner's side to get streamed was Akola vs Tweak, a tried and true matchup that has always been a pain for the American Diddy Kong. But Tweak would fight back hard, taking us to a decisive Game 5. Unfortunately though, it wasn't Tweak who would clutch out that Game 5. With Akola winning 3-2 to move into winners finals, and with Tweak falling into losers against Doramigi.
Yeah. You could tell maybe a little bit of sweat coming out from Akola here. We're at that time of the day where he's using all his strong moves.
This is so scary. This
A
is so
straight hit will
unbelievably
work,
scary.
which is why he went for the F smash, and it's gonna kill.
The other side of winners semis, Rauru vs Wrath, would actually be a landslide, with Rauru overcoming the bad matchup to sweep Wrath in 3-0 fashion, moving into winners finals against Akola and casting Wrath down into losers versus Mia.
The game isn't over yet.
For sure. It ain't over till it's over.
Oh,
Okay.
we might have TR works here.
Next up, we've got the runback of Doramigi vs Tweak, which had previously gone down 3-0 in Tweak's favor. And even though Doramigi would take a game this time, the end result wasn't much different, with Tweak winning 3-1 and moving on in bracket, while Doramigi was eliminated at 5th place as the 3rd seed.
Tweak's
Landing up there has been so good, by the way.
It's insane. Yeah.
Oh!
Wow.
A round of
Moving over to the other side, we've got Wrath versus Mia, and the last time the two of these players fought, Wrath had taken it in a close Game 5. Mia would not let that happen again, defeating Wrath in a 3-1 victory to eliminate the USA Sonic at 5th place as the 24th seed, and with Mia moving on into loser semis to fight Tweak.
all right. Down tilt miss base, follows up with a dash tag. Wrath getting and what a finisher. The complete coverage coming out from every single one of Wrath's defensive options, catching him recovering.
But before we see that set, we have to take a look up at winners finals, Akola versus Rauru. Now these two have actually fought before, but Akola has always won. And Akola is Akola, you know? Is there realistically any way that Rauru can win here? Well, about that.
Options obviously decided to go for the anvil here.
Oh,
no! It is! It is an outright to
That's it. 3-1 over Akola.
Rauru defeated Akola in 3-1 fashion, moving into grand finals through winner's side and casting Akola down into losers finals. Meeting him there would be the winner of Tweak Mia, which was an unceremonious 3-0 in Mia's favor.
Make it back, Tweak, please!
Oh, that's
good
huge back there. In such a horrible spot. Oh, that was perfect. That was perfect from Mia.
Which eliminated Tweak at 4th place as the 14th seed, and with Mia moving into losers finals to face off against Akola, a set that would go down to a decisive Game 5.
Akola mixing up the timing of his recovery though. Not enough to get past that bomb.
Last stock scenario between the two players.
No,
He's it up!
oh,
Yes!
he's out of here. Reverse 3-0.
Reverse 3-0 back!
And in that Game 5, Akola would defeat Mia 3-2, eliminating Mia at 3rd place as the 4th seed, and with Akola moving into grand finals from loser's side to face off against Rauru, to see who would become your champion of the Ultimate Smash Tournament, Kagaribi 13.
Just managed to stay in the air with that side B and take the whole stage afterwards.
Lead out. Oh, he waited. Oh my God. What do you do
Wait
here?
for it to go back on the stage.
Oh my goodness, this is so tense.
That's not enough for his target. It's a very long nerve into
No
a
match,
backer.
no match from Akola. Oh, but the up B. And there's the dash attack.
Yes! The dash attack will be enough for Akola! He will claim back his throne at Kagaribi 13! He will win the first and only SPGA!
And in the end, Akola would double eliminate Rauru by winning 3-1 in Grands and in the Grands reset, with Rauru being eliminated at 2nd place as the 12th seed, and with Akola winning Kagaribi 13 as the 2nd seed. So that's it. The largest Smash tournament of all time is over, so where does that leave us? I think it's important to go over what we're left with as the tournament comes to a close. First of all, there are several competitors who are just done with this game as a whole. Riddles, for one, has stated that this tournament was his last one before he finally dropped Smash to go full send in Street Fighter 6. Honestly, a banger to end on. Tweak also released a tweet after his elimination that said he very well may be dropping Smash 2, citing some personal issues. Again, if Tweak does end up leaving us, he left us with a banger performance. And of course, there are several competitors who are in danger of retiring, even if they didn't specifically say so. Namely, Dabuz and Cola, especially with Dabuz losing his longtime Liquid sponsorship. And as much as this may shock you, we may also lose Spargo too. He released a cryptic tweet about not being sure about how he feels regarding Smash anymore. And while I don't think he will, the mere idea of Spargo retiring so soon sends shivers down my spine. Other than that, how's the race for number 1 coming along? Well, Spargo is effectively out of it. With a 33rd here, I honestly don't see any way Spargo has a shot at best player in the world this year. Unless he really just wins everything from here on out, including Japanese majors. So I think it's a safe bet to eliminate Spargo from the number 1 running. Doramigi's claim to number 1 in the world is still pretty strong, with a solid 5th place finish, though that's technically still a slight underperformance. Akola and Mia are in a really similar spot, where their great performances here will propel them in the rankings, but their massive underperformance at Level Up Expo just the weekend prior puts a damper on their claim. I think that if Level Up Expo is the only underperformance of the year for these two competitors, either one of them could still have a solid claim to number 1. And of the two of them, that seems much more likely for Akola to accomplish than Mia. While day 1 was categorized by the unseeded Smashmate players making big waves, day 2 of Kagaribi 13 was all about a passing of the torch in my mind. Both of the title of the best player in the world from Spargo to someone else, and of the mantle of Smash's epicenter firmly to Japan. I mean, let's be honest, Japan fully defended from all invaders at Kagaribi 13, and their performance was exceptional, even with the good NA run thrown in there. This is especially true since even the good NA runs are coming from players who all say they're retiring. What does this mean for Smash? Is North America done for without the likes of Riddles, Tweak, or Spargo? Honestly, kinda, yeah. It'll be up to the next generation of NA talent to stand up for us, but honestly, it feels like that day is far away. In short, Kagaribi 13 was the ultimate Smash tournament, the biggest showcase of what this game has to offer. Does that mean Steve Luigi Grands? Is that the best Smash Ultimate can do? Maybe. But for what it's worth, if there's anyone happy about Akola winning, it's Japan. Debates have already started about if Akola should actually be considered Ultimate's GOAT and not MKLeo. I don't really think anything will dethrone Leo's mango factor of he's cool and I like him, but it is an interesting dichotomy when compared to EVO 2019. That tournament's grand finals and this tournament's grand finals are truly representative of where the game is at both points in time. And no matter how you feel about it, Japan has one message, one phrase, repeated in artworks, in cheerboards, and social media posts. A message directed at perhaps the new GOAT of Smash Ultimate, Akola. Welcome back, King. I've been Rister Mice, and that's going to be it for today's video. Before I go, shout out to my tier 2 patron Ben L, and additionally, extra special thanks to my tier 3 supporters Myriad, who says big deal, make it out of a slump, Avadoon, who says Mr. Rice is the GOAT of Smash content, and Iltis, who says MKLeo always comes back. If you want to support me using any of these methods, links in the description down below. Don't miss my next upload, but until then, I've been Rister Mice, and thank you all so very much for watching.